Hello, greetings to you and welcome to this reflection. The Gospel reading today is mainly about the feeding of the 5,000 people, and many sermons may be preached on that this weekend, but I've been reflecting on the first verse. Now, when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place by himself. What Jesus had heard was that John the Baptist was dead, and I want to reflect on his reaction. Molly was my eldest sister, much older than me. In 1940, she married Roy, who was serving in the RAF. 2 years later, she got a telegram. On the night of June the 22nd, 1942, he took part in a bombing raid on Emden, a seaport in northwest Germany. 227 planes took part. Roy's plane was seen to ditch in the sea on the return home. Much later, my other sister told me that Molly struggled to eat for some weeks, believing that he may be sheltering somewhere awaiting rescue, but it never happened. How have you felt when you've got some really bad news, especially when it's completely out of the blue? You were probably stunned, perhaps wondering, is it true? Is there a mistake? Jesus had just received word that John the Baptist was dead, beheaded on the orders of Herod at the request of his wife. John had baptized Jesus. They were both servants of God, sent to preach the good news. And now he was gone, murdered. Jesus' reaction is the same that many of us might have when we hear such news. We want to be alone. We need some time alone to process this, to weep, to pray, to remember. And so Jesus withdrew in a boat to a desert place apart. This shows us the human side of Jesus. We've all been there. But Jesus wasn't left alone. A crowd had followed him. And we read that he healed some who were sick and then uses 5 loaves and 2 fishes to feed this crowd. It's remarkable that despite the trauma of hearing of John the Baptist's murder, the time for being alone had to be postponed until after he'd served the crowd. But in verse 23, we read, and after he'd sent the multitudes away, he went up to the mountain to pray. And when evening was come, he was there alone, but praying. Prayer for Jesus was a close encounter with God. And I find myself reflecting on what that was like. Prayer for us can be a bit formulaic. Words may be said with little sense that God is listening. Why do you think the disciples said to him, teach us to pray? They'd probably prayed since the earliest years. But they knew that for Jesus, prayer was a living conversation, a practice which gave him courage and was the source of all his compassion and strength. Jesus had wanted time alone, but it didn't last long. He sent the disciples across the Sea of Galilee, but their boat was distressed by the waves, so he left his prayers to rescue them. He was not given time to wallow in his grief. And my sister, after her weeks of grief, chose to leave her job as a shop assistant and join the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. Whenever we experience loss, may our prayers and awareness of God give us strength to carry on, but also to believe that he still has a purpose for us and to find it. God bless you all.